Okay, good morning, good morning, good morning. Very pleased to see students and also colleagues turning up for this important meeting. And my name is Samson C. I'm the professor in mental health myself. Currently, I serve as the associate dean, looks after undergraduate education. You may not realize, everyone here, you are part of making a history for this faculty in a sense that you are well knowing that within the Faculty of Social Sciences, we have the famous, from my perspective, research mixer salon. But this morning, we are holding a teaching mixer salon. So in that regard, it is a history-making moment for this faculty. Rightly so, placing the focus and also the emphasis on teaching as well. So once again, my very sincere, warm welcome to everyone here. May I ask any students here in the floor? Raise your hands. Up. Yeah, two, three. Okay. Hey, give them a round of applause. I mean, it's great to have students in this conversation, in this meeting. One or two things to contextualize what we are doing this morning. I mentioned already, it is all about teaching, the exciting thing, and also the business and things we are proud of here. Number two, we call it a mixer salon. I think salon, we think about hair salon, which doesn't have much relevancy to me. But salon itself is pretty much referring to a gathering place. People have important conversation, a place where dialogue happens. And I think exactly that is what we are going to do this morning. We will have two speakers to share their thoughts. The whole idea is to warm up, to cultivate the soil for further conversation. So please work with me. Don't let them lecture to us. I mean, of course they lecture, but don't allow them to talk for too long. So we will have two colleagues to share their thoughts. I'll come to join them, and we will have exciting, very much looking forward kind of conversations. Please allow me to introduce the two colleagues who are going to share. One is Professor Eddie Cho. He himself is a counseling psychologist by training, assistant professor in the Department of Social Work and Social Administration. At the moment, he is the boss looking after the counseling program within the social sciences faculty curriculum. And also Eddie is not a regular teacher. He is the award winner of Social Sciences Outstanding Teaching Award. I have not received that myself. So yeah, give him a round of applause, please. And Vivian lecturer in politics department. At the moment, she is the co-director of an important program as well. And Vivian is the recipient of, well, not only faculty this time, listen, Hong Kong U new teacher teaching award. So thank you, Vivian. Hey, why not? Yeah, give her a round of applause. Okay, I stop here, and Eddie will come and share a few thoughts, and followed by Vivian. Yeah, I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Professor Samson C, for your kind introduction. So let's see, where is the, okay. All right, so it's really an honor to be here, and thank you for inviting me to share some of my reflections on teaching and learning, and particularly in the context of Bachelor of Social Sciences counseling. And I'm glad to see some of the students that our program is teaching. And so As a counseling psychologist, my role here is also not to lecture, but to raise questions. Hopefully, this will provoke further discussion later on. And what I'm offering today is some of the observations and dialogues that teachers, colleagues, and students and I have been having. And so I'm going to present some of these ideas here today. So to set the stage up, just wanted to go over you know, what do we mean by the AI era, right? What are we actually facing? Okay, so obviously AI and AI-powered textbooks are already here, and they are changing the landscape of teaching and learning. So as I searched on the internet, I found that this publisher, Pearson, is already kind of producing these AI-powered study tool, for students. So let's take a look of what they're capable of doing.
They need when they need it. Content you can trust. Pearson's AI study tool, built for learning, backed by Pearson authored content. Generate helpful summaries in seconds. Get step-by-step explanations. Test skills with personalized practice. Translate content at the click of a button. Built into Pearson eTextbook, MyLab, and Mastering. Supporting students outside of class, so you can go further in it. Pearson's AI study tool.
So as you can see, these kind of innovative textbooks and technologies is already making like specific domain of knowledge content really interactive. Feedback could be tailored according to students' performance, and it really follows learning principles. It's kind of scaffolding students' development on specific skill sets. And so you might have different reactions toward this right now. And if you, we invite you to notice what kind of thoughts or emotions or even kind of physiological visceral reactions that you might be having in this moment, and we'll bookmark that and engage in a discussion later on. Okay, so in relations to counseling education, AI is also changing the landscape, but one area is simulated learning, okay? Similar to medical school, when we train counselors or helping professionals, there are these situations that are really high stake. For example, assessing suicide or homicide risks, for example, child abuse cases. These are some of the high stakes situations where simulated learning would be really useful. And AI provides really opportunities to, let's say, adapt the client's sociocultural background, or even provide, again, adaptive feedback to students according to their past performances before we put the students out to the field, right? So this is kind of some of the situations that how AI is used. And of course, I haven't really seen, that type of simulated learning for our counseling education just yet, but I think it's a matter of time. And but before that, Notebook LM, I am sure a lot of you are aware of already, is changing the landscape of higher education. And in the field of counseling, let's say Notebook LM potentially is capable of turning these really dense materials into podcasts or flashcards, right? That might facilitate students to remember these really dense contents better, or even cognitively understand, the logic behind these ordinance, dense materials. For example, in our field, we often talk about ethics, right? What's considered an ethical practice, right? When it comes to child abuse cases, right, there we have mandatory reporting of child abuse ordinance. These are really dense materials, right? So, so there might be opportunities, that AI can facilitate the learning process among students. But with that backdrop, what I am really hoping to focus on today are two main areas. One is what constitutes responsible use of AI, okay? And the other is what constitutes the essence of teaching and learning after all, okay? So to start with, responsible use of AI, okay? I feel like this is a very important conversation that we have to have. And I am going to focus mostly on the area of assessments and also how teacher can, act as a gatekeeper in this process. Okay, so when I looked at our HKU resources, TALIC often comes to the list, and there's a lot of really useful materials that I learned a lot from. And one this past semester that I tried is this kind of guide that I was able to derive from TALIX. I tweaked the guide further, regarding the appropriate versus inappropriate use of AI. And as you can see, there are these kind of encouragements of using AI, in various areas. Like, one favorite use of mine is to use, let's say, AI-powered database where we can more accurately identify articles or literature that maybe students need to kind of deepen their arguments or develop their arguments, right? So that's something that I encourage myself and also my students to do. There are also don'ts, right? There are areas where students, I'm sure a lot of you might have come across, is that students would just ask ChatGPT or other LLM to get an answer, right? And treat it as if they are the real answer without actually think through. Okay, so kind of just blindly trust the output from AI. So that's one example of don'ts. But let's pause, okay? There are a few scenarios that I found from these examples are also interesting. So I wanted you to tell me, whether you would support students to do this or not, okay? So using AI to provide feedback on students' assessment before they submit, okay? Using AI to identify errors in their application of key concepts to a given scenario. Last but not least, using AI to generate practice problems to help them understand a tough concept. How many of you would, I mean, just a show of hands, how many of you would not allow students to use AI in this way? You would ban. Okay, I can see some hands. Okay. How many of you would support students to do? Okay, I also see some hands. All right. As a counseling psychologist, what I learned from my field is it depends. Okay, a lot of times it depends. All right. Well, there are a lot of explanations. I don't have to lecture you, but one thing I found really helpful from TALIC is that it's this paragraphs. Okay, it says fundamentally, if an assignment is focusing on specific personal skills to be developed by the student, then the use of AI in a way that obviates the development of those skills would be inappropriate, right? So if I wonder, why it depends, right? So this might be one answer that I find helpful. And so in the field of counseling, for example, a lot of times we invite students to do case conceptualization using different counseling theories, such as person-centered theory, CBT, to facilitate, to really ask them to apply these theories in understanding human experiences better, right? And so we require them to not just apply, but also analyze the characters' experiences. So if that is the core competence or learning outcome that we expect from students, it doesn't make sense. It would mean that, we will need some guardrail or guiding students through how they navigate this. If I don't provide these guardrail, I imagine, and I've come across students just put the scenario in ChatGPT and then apply the theory for them, and they don't have to even use their brain, right? So who am I assessing? Am I assessing the AI or assessing the student, right? So one thought that I am experimenting is that I would ask students to first conceptualize, these experiences first by themselves, okay? And followed by actually encouraging them to use AI, but in a way that's as almost like a peer-to-peer consultant, which I think professionally we will is ideally that will be a culture they want to cultivate, right? So they would use AI to also generate their point of view, applying maybe a different counseling theory into it, and compare and contrast. Okay, so that would be almost like making use of AI, but also in a way that could help cultivate this peer-to-peer learning culture, which we would expect too, if they decide to become a professional, where we oftentimes consult our colleagues, right, about how we tackle certain situations. Which, brings me to the topic of what constitutes the essence of teaching and learning after all, okay, in this AI era. So I primarily reflect on social and observational learning in this topic. And before I delve into it further, just to give everybody a little bit more context about, the Bachelor of Social Sciences, counseling, what we are doing and what we're trying to facilitate students to learn. Okay, so it is an interdisciplinary major minor program where we're not only teaching students from the Faculty of Social Sciences, but also students from other faculties, including science, engineering. We have education students, we have arts and humanities students. So really a broad range of students. And the goal is not to train them to be professional helping social worker or counselors, which they could pursue later on. But the primary goal for us is to, again, raise awareness and curiosity among these students. And particularly, if I have to summarize what we're hoping to train students is the self-reflective capacity, okay? And how do we do that? So you might wonder, now that we have these AI-powered textbook and all these tools, what's the point of coming to classroom anymore, right? So my reflection is that social and observational learning might be one way that we have to capitalize. So let's say the objective, a lot of our colleagues in our program is trying to facilitate students to develop this embodied understanding of, what presence and attunement mean after all, okay? And also attending to other experiences while actually attuning to our own internal process as well. Okay, a jargon we call tracking. So we're not only tracking other people's response or experiences, but also tracking what's happening within us. Okay. So that's a lot going on. Oftentimes it's actually really busy, And so for a lot of students, not just social sciences students, maybe sometimes for science students who are really uh, comfortable with logic, this is something that it messed their mind up. So, but we find that a lot of times experiential learning exercises plus real-time feedback from instructors are really helpful. So there are exercises like, let's say, triadic practice, where students would take turns to rotate these three roles, including storyteller, observer, and active listener, where they would get to practice each role in order to sharpen their kind of embodied understanding of what it means by attunement, active listening. There's these fishbowl exercises where a student can be invited as a volunteer storyteller, where other students would be active listeners, and then they would rotate to take turns to practice active listening skills in response to what the storyteller shares. And of course, something that I really like when to do with students in class is deliberate practice as we teach communication and helping skills, where just like how I invited you all to track your internal emotions, reactions just now, that's what I invite students to do too, but with a specific scenario. So even without AI, there's already, videos that we can use. But of course, AI, I imagine, it's a matter of time we can develop a more greater variety of learning materials. But here, just one example, there I'm going to show you a video. I would like to invite you to imagine you're trying to pursue to become a professional counselor or social worker, okay? And if a client say this to you, what kind of reactions is elicited in you right now? Okay, so let's bear that question in mind as you watch that video. All right.
I don't want to be rude, but I'm not sure that therapy is helping. I felt better when we started a few months ago, but now I feel worse. and I know that you're trying, but do you really think that this is helping? And how do you know for sure? My friend told me that her therapist is very reassuring, and I don't know. Sometimes I feel like you don't understand me at all, and I understand. I know that you are pretty new to this. Are you absolutely sure that you can help me? Because sometimes I wonder if I felt better just because I expected therapy to help. I mean, my girlfriend even said that therapy is just a placebo, and at first I said it wasn't, but I don't know. I mean, now I'm really wondering how much this can really help me. I didn't tell you this earlier because I said I do like you. I like you as a person, and I know that you're trying. But right now, I just really need to know how sure you are that therapy can help me because this costs a lot of money.
Okay, so imagine there are a lot of different reactions, that's being elicited, and so let's bookmark them. And what I'm trying to say is that when we're all here in person, this kind of experience is shared, and it's something that I personally think that AI may not be able to achieve. And so here with this shared experience and embodied experience, what I can make use of is there's a lot of information. And so we can then make use of that to actually deepen our understanding of what countertransference is, which is how a helper reacts to the client, right, emotionally, right? So we can talk about how we manage it and things like that. Of course, on the topic of diversity, there's also a lot of socio-diversity backgrounds and identity experiences in this classroom. So it also gives me a lot of opportunities to actually engage in experiential learning activities, to invite students to let's say understand better what power means, what intersectionality means, right? So making use of the lived experiences already there in the classroom. So with these kind of different exercises and practices, often some students, I think this feedback really um, uh, exemplify, what they expect, I think, to happen in a classroom. They said in-class sessions were valuable in their emphasis on application and interaction rather than passive learning. And that's something that really highlights, I think, what students enjoy about coming to university and being with their peers. And to wrap up, I imagine, there would be also teachers' own embodiment as well. Yeah, and so this is something that we can think about, how us as educators, our own presence, our own way of facilitating dialogues and things like that actually also play a role in students' learning and development as a person and professional. Wrap up, there are some questions, I think, for us to ponder. With the two topics that I reflected on, questions include how do you define the core competencies and skills that students should learn and develop in your area of discipline? Okay, in what ways AI actually can facilitate the development of these competencies? And also, what guardrails do you actually need, right, to guide students through that? And second question is, to what extent should we prioritize investment in social and observational learning alongside investment in AI? And that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you for Professor C for the very kind introduction, and I'm so grateful to be following Professor Chong's introduction because that really set the scene and also your practices. Because I don't really go into the why AI or what AI does. And also, I wanted to start by saying that we had a sharing, the three of us had a conversation last week about what this is about. And mainly, we wanted to talk about how, okay, why do students still want to come to the classroom given the age of AI? And that relates to a joke that goes around the teaching profession, that when you're given a topic or you're asked to teach something that you're not familiar with or doesn't happen, we're all nodding our heads because that happens, right? You need to be the one that reads faster than the student. Right? Like usually, as long as you read more than the student, then you're fine. But in this day and age, anyone can go on AI, use different tools to summarize, to gather knowledge. So the relevance of then in-class teaching and learning, and then of course some of the exercises that you shared as well, and that will be a key theme of my sharing. Something that I also feel is not really debated because I think we all agree that AI could be a tool that is used well, it can help us with learning. But of course, there is the dual reality that, of course, it can be misused, and that is something that we want to guard against. So we're fostering that critical mindset in an AI world, and we're trying to keep classes engaging, inspiring the students' participation as well. So there are a few key things to structure my sharing right now. First is about the built-in experiential and reflective learning in almost every class. And with that, there will be lots of in-class exercises in every session that I do. And part of that, one of the exercises will be about training or incubating that sense of healthy skepticism towards everything, really, but of course, particularly any AI information generated. And also AI resilient assessment if we have time at the very end. With experiential and reflective learning, used to only have like one exercise in each class and then have that as a breakup and to help with engagement, more interactivity. It goes beyond traditional knowledge transfer. So thank you for sharing the Bloom's taxonomy. So in case anyone's not exactly familiar, because we have students. So with the bottom of that Bloom's taxonomy, you have understanding or gathering knowledge. That is something that's easily done now, right? With internet, with AI. So our focus with sustainability teaching, it's about shaping attitudes, values, and judgment. And that's what we need to navigate complex sustainability challenges. So with all these in-class exercises, it helps for some form of formative assessment. It can be informal as well. So that's an idea where you don't have to wait until the very end of the course to assess students. All along the way, you can be assessing how they're progressing, how they're learning. That's a conversation we had with the community of practice in AI a few months ago, where teachers all talked about AI use. How do we address that? Turn it in percentages. How do we interpret that? And then I think part of the suggestions that we received was that we need to, as teachers, get to know the students. So know how they're learning. And then at the end, you can see the assignment that was submitted is in line with how they've been learning. But of course, many of us has really big classes. Like it's not really possible, even with 12 sessions, for you to get to know 120 students, even the ones that do come. Right? So with that then, how do you get to know students individually? So through in-class exercises, that's where you can get to know the class as a whole, how the whole class is progressing. But individually, you can go back if you have students that may be getting poor peer evaluation or getting a high turn in AI-generated percentages, you can go back to all those individual exercises that are submitted along the semester and then see, what's been the quality of that submission. And that's also where I use AI, because when I need to get a quick whole class judge or a gauge of how things are progressing, I put all their submissions into AI and ask it to summarize, okay, what has been the key understanding or key feedback from a particular exercise or question. And then another, I think, tendency of using AI in a kind of dishonest way, or to use that completely as a way of your own assignment, is if that assignment is too overwhelming. Like if it seems like, oh, it's too hard that you're asking me to do this assignment, then I'll just use AI to do it and then submit it as my own work. So using exercises to break it down into more manageable steps along the way, I feel would help students feel that, oh, okay, by the end, this is something that I can do. Where versus from day one, when they read the course outline and then they read the assignment questions, like, ooh, I have no idea what this means or what I can do or whether I can tackle that. And to tackle the shortened attention span, we all know how things are, evolving with the reels and things like our attention span just keeps reducing. And this is what I'm trying to do as well right now, because we have had, a bit of sharing. So those of you who are familiar with Hong Kong U, you're like, yes, I recognize these right away. Those of us who are a bit newer, you might not know. So this is a undergraduate course that I teach on energy sustainability. So this lecture is about energy and the built environment. So adding in-class exercises where one of them, or some of them, have out-of-classroom learning experience, where we give them these free photos and then ask them to go and look for these places. So those of you who've been around for ages, like, that's easy. But remember, these are semester one, year one students. So we need to make it kind of more reasonable that they can find these spots. So they would go to these spots and then they would, we would have a tutor there. We would have a QR code and information on how that building feature relates to, energy sustainability. So brings in a bit more of a, different learning experience. Because that's just one example. And then there, of course, the more traditional individual group tasks. Some could be online, some could be, more of a diagram written, drawn even. Systematic collection of feedback. That's something that I found really helpful because it helps identify where clarification is needed, especially when you're teaching Common Core, right? Everybody's coming from a different background, then are we all, on the same page? So something that I've found really useful is a platform that's developed by Alex and Luke from Talik, our wonderful colleagues that have this platform. So it makes it much easier for me to do 2 or even more exercises in one class, and they can compare the results. So at the beginning of the class versus at the end, what kind of understanding has improved or what areas there are still confusion. That then, very quick analysis helps me prepare for the next week. What things do I need to come back to and revise? Because engagement, again, is something, once people can't follow something, they just switch off or drop off and stop coming. Right? So hopefully with these approaches, it helps to keep everybody engaged still. It could be formative quizzes, even very single question choice, because it might not be that every single class you have time to build in a very long exercise. So even a very quick, yes, no, multiple choice answer, that could help. Something, of course, continual reflection and adjustments, seeing what works, what needs adjustments. For example, what I did is to have more open-ended response option. And that's where I said, using AI to help analyze the responses really help. Because I don't want it to always be, boring multiple choices. I want to hear more of the free flow feedback from students, right? So that's that. And then the treasure hunt, other than looking for the free designated spots, I asked them when they're looking for those spots to take photographs of different features of energy saving or even energy wasting features on campus. And so that makes, again, that whole journey a bit more interesting. And it also helps them realize that it's much easier to spot than you think. Like the relevance of energy in your daily life is, more Another example about nudges. So these are research. So how do we put, some kind of really dense research material into something that's more interesting? That idea is that we don't need to also wait for a very concrete or mandatory policy for us to transition to a more sustainable society. Like there are small minor things like a nudge that can help push us to do the right thing. That, and then students draw on their lived experience. So that again is an area where AI cannot replace, right? Asking students to reflect on their daily life. Like just every day when you come into class, there could be different choices that you're making that there are more sustainable options. Like, have you considered those? What could they be? We talked about barriers for more sustainable behavior. And then we asked them to come up with an idea of a nudge. We talked about using AR, mixing reality with technology, and then asking them to draw an idea of a nudge that could be implemented. That's about a restaurant and how you get use technology in order to help people make more sustainable choices in their food ordering. Last example, in-class exercise. That's where really AI is the center of this exercise. So whether it's with the undergrad Common Core courses or the Top Master program, there's also the issue of, when we're teaching a theory, students might wonder, relevance, practicality, your theory sounds so perfect, is it really that way? So in order to narrow that theory action gap, we often offer them examples. We say, okay, look at this example. This is how this plays out. But of course, that's a passive way of learning, right? Students receiving your example, they might still be wondering, is that really the case? And so in this exercise, they are asked to use generative AI to find case study that supports that theory. Also reminding them that you can use it as a learning tool, but also reminding them throughout the process to question the sources, verify claims, develop independent judgment. So afterwards, once students start doing that and start looking for case studies, then they start questioning and look into the case study. Is it really matching all the criteria of the theory that I've shared? That helps them, again, learn the different criteria within the theory rather than just me telling them what it is. So they become more confident. They become more aware of all the components of the Porter hypothesis, a deeper understanding, and of course, appreciation that case studies might not be perfect, but it doesn't matter. We're not saying that these theories are perfect. We always can find different case studies to help us give nuance to understanding real life. The idea is not that we want to develop perfect theory. It's to give us a framing to better understand real life events, develop insights. In that process as well, because I also find that with our very early year undergrads and our top master students, they may not be so comfortable with the process of looking for research or what kind of area to find, because not as very clear-cut discipline as the other departments with sustainability. You can find research from many different disciplines. So you might want to talk about energy governance, and then students type in the keywords, and maybe you get a lot of engineering articles, and then they start citing those because they're not sure where to. So recommending that they use AI to also help them narrow down what could be the key journals that you look for to find relevant studies. How do you go and check whether the information that's being provided is actually accurate? So using that to support them in doing research. Of course, again, some reflection. It's not perfect. We find that sometimes when we ask students to do that, to critique the responses by AI, they'll still ask AI to critique AI, right? They're still not exactly doing the active part of the critiquing, right? It's like, no, try and do something else. Some come up with it. Some, they're still, I think these critiques are pretty decent. I don't have anything further to add. So, yeah, good and bad there. But at least through the process, they have a better understanding of, different case studies, how things work, and the application of theory, more or less. So that's a wrap up of what I shared today about experiential reflective learning, how to use that, and sometimes coupled with AI to make learning more engaging. I think we can come to Professor C. Thank you.
My impression is good dose of sharing of their resources and also their teaching practices as well. Not only describing, but also support by some students' feedback and also evidence. I just want to acknowledge in the audience that Dean Meng is with us at the back, and also Professor Mark Bray, UNESCO Chair Professor in Comparative Education, and his wife as well. When you guys feel ready, please chip in, and we still have time for some conversations. Before we start, I just want to again encourage our students, chip in. Yeah, I think your voices, your feedback, your comments are super, super relevant here. May I invite Eddie and Vivian to join me? I will start with one question and then I will remain quiet. Yeah, please, please, please. I'm not going to bite you. I just want to invite our two colleagues to respond to my one single question, maybe with two or three thoughts, and then we move on. They mentioned that already. Very likely you pick it up. I think the very fundamental, sounds stupid, but extremely important question. What do you think in terms of maybe two or three things we can do to make sure our students will continue coming to class, not only coming, but really getting something out, flourishing, and also fostering their learning? What would be your two or three thoughts if that question presents to you? I mean, again, with the backdrop of AI this and AI that, what would you say? Two or three things. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I can start with the point and then we'll see. If there are more ideas that come later. I think maybe one thing that wasn't quite mentioned there is peer learning, even though it's implicit in the exercises, because that is, again, something that AI cannot replace. And I think what's really interesting is that when we came out of COVID, because we had done so many online exercises, we see that when we were giving students in-class exercises, they weren't talking to each other. They were opening Google Docs and then just typing it in. I'm like, but they're right next to you. But I think that has improved in the past 2 years or so, that they are starting to talk to each other a bit more. So I think we can maybe foster a bit more of that, because I think with counseling, I think we are noticing that people might be going to AI to talk about their problems as well. So it's, in-class learning, all of that, but also building that community and that support system. It's so important.
To begin with, yep.
I don't have two or three things, maybe one thing to kind of add on is friendship, I would say, that I think, yeah, semester after semester, I think I actually witness and also hear students that they really treasure the opportunity to actually build friendships in the classroom, and actually it's not just about these experiential learning. It's not what we do, it's like what we do together as a process. And also they are able to actually, across faculties too, that they were able to actually learn new perspectives and challenge each other. Academically, I would call this growth fostering relationships. So, yeah.
Very good. I don't have to repeat. So, well, now is the floor time. Your questions, comments. Yeah, please. Your name and maybe your comments or question, please.
Yeah. My name is Hao Han Chen. I'm from the PPA department, and I teach a course named Data Science in Politics and Public Administration. So I'm extremely excited about this initiative. So I have two questions, and also based on my shared feeling, I share a lot of feelings in your introduction. The first question is about the interpersonal connection and communication in class and outside class. So this year, I have two observations with my teaching. One, less students come to office hours to interact with me, the instructor. And two, even if students seek my advice, usually they are quickly distracted by what AI teach them to do, right? So they do worse in integrating the instructor's advice. So I mean, these are the two observations that's troubling, and also I'm wondering what to do about. And I feel that we are in, so people have been talking about computer mediated communication, and then that's the subject, right? But I think we're in the era of AI mediated communication. That is, people are less interested in talking to people, especially students, less interested in talking to professors. And also when they talk to professors, they are mediated by AIs. So there are cases that I give student advice and then I get response that are clearly generated by AI. Like it's very AI sounding. And also when I give students advice and then they put those advice into AI and ask AI to give them suggestion how they respond to that. And I think that makes all these advising very ineffective and also very, not helpful, right? So this is the first question. What's your take on this? And also, do you have the same kind of experience? Yeah. And then the second experience is about translation. So I think you mentioned that's part of how you use AI, right? How students use AI. And so there are more cases that I feel students are less interested in learning, in learning how to write and express in English, like our instruction language. Yeah. A lot of cases, they write, and dominantly these are Chinese speakers, they write in Chinese, and then they just ask AI to translate, or they ask AI to translate the materials, right? So I have a mixed feeling about it. Initially, I thought that's wrong, but then on the second thoughts, these are second language speakers, so what's wrong about them asking AI to fill the gap, right? So it was, the previous system was unfair to second language speakers in some sense, right? So that's the second. What's your take on using AI as a translation tool in the teaching and learning?
Thank you. Before we respond, I wonder in particular, would students like to make any comments, maybe responding to the remarks or anything you have in mind? Yeah, please.
So, hello, I'm a student of BSS program in psychology. So, from what I noticed, I think motivation is a very important thing, like intrinsic motivation, what motivates you to go back to class. So apart from friendship, I think it's the things you learn must be interesting in order for students to really engage in the class. And support is really needed. Sometimes maybe the teachers can even reach out a bit saying like, you can find me any time during office hour if it is needed to encourage more usage of office hour opportunities and connect with the teacher to know the comments and what is really needed for the student to improve, because I had experience in previous courses, and I found that if the guidelines are not very clear, then it may not facilitate the students to learn. So I believe that with clear guidelines, it will be very useful for the students to really learn well and to facilitate them to get a high GPA, of course.
What was your name?
I'm Carney Chang.
Correct. Yeah, thank you. I think the words are interesting. It's very profound. Yeah. Rachel? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Rachel, and sorry, I'm also from BS program in sociology and counseling. A quick response to the motivation of going to lecture is also especially I think in our counseling program, we have a lot of experiential learning and also like group activities like as provided by Eddie. And I think they are very like attractive and interesting and also can facilitate my learning. And I think another feature of our program is the bonding and also the connection with the teaching staffs, the professors, and also our students. Like our program, we have like regular gathering, lunch sharing, and we
Oh, wow.
will, yeah,
Who
check
pay for that?
faculty.
Carry on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think they are really like a treasurable opportunity for me to connect to like the teaching staffs.
Okay.
That helps us a lot. And also for the second question about the translation and English, and I'm not a native English speaker. My first language is Cantonese, so I think I really rely on AI for me to improve my English writing. But maybe this is because the readings requires me more like much more time to summarize. So a lot of my peers rely on the AI for summarizing the readings, and we all acknowledge that AI write better than us. So I think this we also realize this problem, but I think we are still like trying how to deal with this challenge.
Navigate.
Yeah, navigate. And I wonder whether others have different comments.
Thank you, Rachel. I'd like to give the mic to Aura. While Aura may be speaking, I'd like to invite our two speakers, maybe responding to the earlier remark about translation and also AI-mediated interaction. Aura.
Thank you. I really feel very excited in this gathering. Is it the first time or is
First
it
time, history making.
So it's going on, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Will
wow.
be.
Wow. It's very exciting. When I listened to the two speakers, I just felt, wow, we AI era. We have got people who are working actively to confront the possibilities and the challenges. I myself have been from Faculty of Education, and I have always been very keen on teacher-student relationship. I published in this area, usually from the time that I cannot get my deserved reward from the students. And in the student evaluation of teaching, they voted me very low, and some voted me very high.
Okay.
And that was especially after I got my teaching award.
Right.
And I thought I'm proven competence.
Okay.
But then some students really dislike me.
Okay.
So what I want to get to the point is Bloom's taxonomy. Yes, it's this ancient theory is still coming on. And I would like to see how we together as a university community celebrate the power of discovery. Because you people become teachers and become students in a big brand university, and we all have our proven track record. But how much of it is to be proving our performance, and how much of it is about continuity in discovery? And I want to add to the point that this gentleman was talking about. The students, they how do they come to class, and how would they be related to us? I think discovery is a very important part of our spirit of teaching and learning. The second point I want to make is long-term perspective. And my students and I become very long-term friends. Even they hated me to begin with. Hated is not really a downloaded word, it's an original word. I felt I was not really fairly responded. But long-term goals and commitment to bonding would be very powerful.
And also perhaps long-term impact of the learning experience is important as well. Okay, quickly, Vivian or Eddie, any response to the earlier remark about AI-mediated interaction? Yep. Any thought?
One word that comes to mind is both teachers and students' own agency in kind of probably relates to what Vivian were talking about in terms of gatekeeping and also critical thinking in actually deploying these tools. But one thing I think as a teacher's one responsibility, I think in these process is to define clearly, what we actually expect students to master. Let's say, I don't know what right now, if there's any shared understanding or consensus around what's the minimum language required, like competencies, right? Like if assumingly, you know, for students we admitted to this university, there's already a certain level of language capacity, then we trust that they have that capacity already, then deploying AI tools, then we don't expect them to, you know, learn the language through this experience. But that's a very tricky question too. Yeah.
Vivian, any thought?
Yeah, maybe I'll then respond to the AI mediated communication point. Of course, it wouldn't be that, you know, if you give comments and then the students use AI to critique your comments, and it's like, what's the point? But I think that maybe it might be helpful for understanding our comments. Because sometimes I do feel that when I'm giving like very detailed comments on an assignment, I am wondering on the receiving end of that, whether students actually fully understand what I'm suggesting that they do. And I think we have similar feelings when we receive reviewers' comments. It's like, oh, this is all a bit too much, or it's, you know, too critical. And so you put it through AI to kind of filter out the language, or, you know, or to summarize what it is that they want. So maybe if it's used that way.
Yeah. Hey guys, maybe 5 minutes left. We may have time for 1 or 2 remarks. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I teach journalism in the School of Future Media. So I have a very practical question. So I was talking with one of my fourth-year students who's graduating this year, and we were talking about AI and using AI. And she said that because she's on the job hunt now, that all the jobs they're asking for AI skills. And I said, oh, what exactly does that mean? And she said, well, they're looking for people who know how to deploy a tool in a certain situation. So in journalism, we're not completely agnostic, but we want to make sure they master those core skills of reporting and writing, video production, what have you, before they really get heavier into AI usage. My department is very pro AI. I'm not saying it's not, but my question is, are you having discussions in your department about the level of AI usage from year 1 to year 4? And the idea that maybe we need to limit it in the early years as they master the core skills of our subjects. And then as we kind of prepare them for the working world, do we acknowledge the heavier usage of AI? Thank you.
Thank you. I love the question or remark. It talks about the horizontal, three-dimensional essence of the matter. Any last comment? We will respond, but yeah, please.
Thank you. My name is Ian. I'm a biomedicine and psychology student. So one of the things I've noticed is that AI is around us, and we're gonna have to use it one way or another. Like it's even in Google, let's say in Gemini. So we're gonna face the fact that like some students are gonna use AI like no matter what we do, and also for the concern about like whether students show up to class, it's really about the student's own agency as well. Like it's impossible for us to force a student to go to class, right? And for Mr. Eddie, like about counseling, like even here in HAU, I know that there's a couple projects about developing AI for counseling. And so at what point is like what are we teaching? Is it relevant? Are the skills relevant? And like are we like how do we adapt to this like new environment? Because like it's the Wild West, right? Thank you.
Relevancy and the adaptation. Okay, I'd just like to invite our colleagues to respond to the earlier remarks about the kind of vertical notion of using AI, or at what level. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so 2 thoughts. In terms of department conversations, colleagues feel free to chime in. If I recall, in the social work department, we did have a retreat. We start, I think, brainstorming and talking about how we can actually map out, like throughout the 4 years, what are the expected AI literacy outcomes, you know, to observe from students. I think we started that conversation. But I agree that, you know, there needs to be more conversations to happen. To Ian's point, I would think about alumni relationships, kind of how you just inspired me to think about how, you know, the industry, also graduates from our program, having, the academic, training, but also they now have the industry wisdom, right?
Yes.
How can we collaborate to actually reach that employability and the skill set that's actually needed in the often, evolving landscape?
Excellent. Yeah, so we can use the alumni to anchor and benchmark what has to be done. Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to borrow a bit of our time to say that I think a lot of these conversations we need to have as the university as a whole. And so about the community of practice that I mentioned earlier, that Dr. Jessica To is here. She's the coordinator of that community of practice. And it's a great turnout today. So if anyone hasn't joined, then do talk to Jessica afterwards.
Okay, Mark, would you have any? No? Okay, yeah. Okay, well, I think it is unfortunately pretty much. I think we have to stop this session here. And yes, it is the first session, and more will come perhaps after the summer holiday. So, guys, thank you so much for turning up. It's just a good presence of yourself. Okay, thank you. And well, shall we put our hands together again for the two speakers? Thank you.